Imagine this. You are standing before Allah on the Day of Judgment. Every single deed you ever performed in your life is laid out before you. Every prayer, every act of charity, every moment of remembrance. And then, among all of those deeds, there is one that surprises you completely. A small, thin stick. A stick you used to clean your teeth every single morning before Fajr. And because of that stick and the sincere intention behind it, the angels recorded it not just as hygiene, but as an act of worship. Not just as a habit, but as a sunnah. Not just as a choice, but as obedience to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. That stick has a name. And 14 centuries ago, the most beloved man who ever walked this earth told us to use it. He called it the Siwak. And what modern science has now discovered about this humble little twig will leave you absolutely speechless. From which country are you watching this video right now? Drop it in the comments below, because Muslims from over 100 countries watch this channel, and we want to hear from you. And if you love Islam and you love learning the wisdom hidden inside the Sunnah of our Prophet, peace be upon him, then subscribe to this channel right now and click the bell so you never miss a single video. Because what you are about to learn today is not just fascinating, it could genuinely change your daily life forever. Let us begin at the very beginning, because to understand why the Siwak matters so deeply, you have to understand who told us about it and why that changes everything. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was not just a messenger delivering rules from the heavens. He was a living, breathing example of the most refined and elevated human existence ever witnessed on this earth. He ate with intention, he slept with intention, he walked with intention, and yes, he cleaned his teeth with intention. In a hadith recorded in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, two of the most rigorously authenticated collections of prophetic narrations in the history of Islamic scholarship, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Were it not that I might overburden the believers, I would have ordered them to use the Siwak before every prayer." Read those words again slowly. Before every single prayer. 5 times a day, every day, the Prophet, peace be upon him, wanted this practice to be so deeply embedded into our lives that it would become as natural as breathing. The only reason he held back from making it obligatory was his mercy toward his ummah, his community of believers. He did not want to make things difficult. But think about what that tells us. If something is just barely one step below obligatory in the eyes of the most merciful prophet who ever lived, then that something deserves our complete attention. Now let us talk about what the Siwak actually is. Because many people in the world, particularly those living in Western countries, have never even seen one. The Siwak, also known as Miswak, is a twig taken primarily from the Salvadora persica tree, which grows across the Arabian Peninsula, parts of Africa, and the Indian subcontinent. The tree itself is sometimes called the toothbrush tree, which tells you everything you need to know about how well known its dental properties have become, even in non-Muslim communities. You cut a small branch, peel back a little of the bark at one end, chew it slightly until the fibers separate into a brush-like tip, then use that tip to clean your teeth and gums. That is it. No toothpaste required. No running water required. No electricity required. A portable, self-contained, completely natural tool for oral hygiene that has existed since before the birth of Islam and was perfected and elevated into an act of worship by the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah, one of the most brilliant Islamic scholars who ever lived, wrote extensively about the Siwak in his landmark work, Zad al-Ma'ad, a book on prophetic medicine that remains one of the most cited classical texts in Islamic scholarship to this day. He described the Siwak as a purifier of the mouth, a pleaser of the Lord, and a weapon against the shaitan. He noted that the Prophet, peace be upon him, used the Siwak so frequently and with such consistent devotion that his companions would notice it. The Prophet, peace be upon him, used the Siwak before sleeping, after waking, before prayer, before reciting the Quran, upon entering the home, and when meeting people. Every single one of these moments was intentional. Every single one of these moments was a lesson being lived out in real time for those who had eyes to see. And now here is where things get truly extraordinary, because science has arrived. And the science is not just confirming what the Prophet, peace be upon him, told us 14 centuries ago. Science is discovering just how breathtakingly advanced that knowledge was. Researchers from universities and dental institutes across Europe, North America, and the Middle East have spent decades analyzing the chemical composition of Salvadora persica, the tree from which the Siwak is derived. And what they found is nothing short of remarkable. The Siwak contains trimethylamine, an antibacterial compound that targets and destroys harmful bacteria that cause tooth decay and gum disease. It contains salvadorine and salvadorea, natural substances that function as powerful antiseptics. It contains silica, which gently yet effectively removes surface stains from tooth enamel, leaving teeth whiter and brighter without the harsh chemicals found in commercial whitening products. It contains naturally occurring fluoride, the very same compound that dentists around the world recommend for preventing cavities. It contains vitamin C, essential for healthy gum tissue. It contains tannins, compounds that reduce the buildup of plaque and inhibit the enzymes that bacteria use to damage the teeth. And it contains resins that form a protective layer over the enamel and help seal the tooth surface against bacterial infiltration. All of this in one small twig, given to us by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, over 1400 years before the first modern dental laboratory ever opened its doors. Sister Maryam is a dentist living in Birmingham, United Kingdom. She graduated from one of Britain's most respected dental schools and spent the first several years of her career completely devoted to evidence-based Western dentistry. She believed in the science, she trusted the research, and she was professionally cautious about anything that could not be proven in a laboratory. Then, one of her patients, an elderly Pakistani grandmother, came in for a checkup. The woman was in her mid-70s. She had never owned an electric toothbrush. She had never used mouthwash from a pharmacy. She had been using Siwak her entire life, every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. Her teeth were strong, her gums were healthy. Her plaque levels were minimal. Her enamel showed almost no significant wear. Maryam was stunned. She went home that evening and began researching the Siwak seriously for the first time. The scientific literature she found overwhelmed her. Study after study confirmed what this grandmother's mouth had been demonstrating for 70 years. She now recommends Siwak to many of her patients and has begun incorporating it into her own daily routine. "I came to it as a scientist," she says, "and I stayed because of my faith." Let us now discuss the spiritual dimension of the Siwak. As in Islam, the body and the soul are not separate, they are interconnected. When you care for your body in the manner the Prophet, peace be upon him, instructed, you are not just engaging in physical hygiene, you are engaging in an act of worship. The scholars of Islam have long taught that the intention behind an action transforms its nature entirely. A glass of water drunk with the intention of following the Sunnah of the Prophet, peace be upon him, is no longer just hydration. It becomes an act of obedience to Allah. And the same principle applies to the Siwak. When you pick up that twig in the quiet moments before Fajr, when the world is still dark and most people are still asleep, and you clean your teeth with the sincere intention of following the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, you are earning reward, real reward, a reward that will be waiting for you in the Akhirah, the hereafter. The scholars of the Shafi'i, Hanbali, Maliki, and Hanafi schools of jurisprudence all agreed that using the Siwak before prayer is a strongly recommended sunnah, and Imam an-Nawawi himself noted in his famous collection, Al-Majmu', that the angels are pleased by the one who uses the Siwak and approaches his Lord in a state of cleanliness and purity. There is another dimension to this that most people completely overlook, and it connects directly to the power of the mouth in Islamic spirituality. The mouth is the gateway. It is the place from which the Quran is recited. It is the place from which the name of Allah is spoken. It is the place from which Salah, our prayer, is performed. The Prophet, peace be upon him, understood with profound wisdom that what comes out of the mouth matters immensely, and therefore what goes into the mouth and how we care for the mouth also matters immensely. In a hadith recorded by Imam Ahmad in his Musnad, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that the Siwak purifies the mouth and pleases the Lord. Note the sequence of those two things. First, the purification, then the pleasure of Allah. External cleanliness and internal spiritual elevation are directly linked. You cannot separate them. That is the genius of the Sunnah. It does not make you choose between your body and your soul. It honors both simultaneously. Brother Ahmad is an engineer living in Karachi, Pakistan. He was introduced to the Siwak at university by a classmate who had just returned from performing Umrah in Mecca. The classmate had seen pilgrims from dozens of countries using Siwak in the courtyards of the Masjid al-Haram, and had been so moved by the sight that he had purchased several pieces to bring home. He handed one to Ahmad almost as a joke, expecting him to laugh it off. Ahmad did not laugh. Something about its simplicity struck him deeply. He went home that evening and read every hadith about the Siwak he could find. He discovered that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, used it before entering his home, that Aisha, the mother of the believers, reported that she would prepare the Siwak for the Prophet, peace be upon him, as one of her ways of caring for him, and that the Prophet, peace be upon him, was seen using it so consistently that it was considered almost inseparable from his daily practice. Ahmad was an engineer, he thought in systems. And he realized that the Siwak was a perfect system, a tool that addressed physical cleanliness, spiritual intention, prophetic obedience, environmental sustainability, and communal identity all at once. He uses it to this day and has introduced it to his wife, his children, and his elderly parents. Now let us address something that many Muslims in the modern world genuinely wonder about. Is the Siwak still relevant today when we have electric toothbrushes, fluoride toothpaste, mouthwash, and dental floss? And the answer, from both a scientific and a spiritual perspective, is an absolute and emphatic yes. First, from the science. Multiple clinical studies, including research published in the Journal of Periodontology and studies conducted at King Abdulaziz University in Saudi Arabia, have found that the Siwak is at least as effective as a conventional toothbrush in reducing plaque and gingivitis when used correctly. Some studies have found it to be superior. The natural antibacterial compounds in the Siwak are not replicated by commercial toothpaste, which often contains artificial chemicals, foaming agents, and synthetic preservatives. The Siwak leaves no chemical residue in the mouth. It does not disrupt the natural pH balance, and unlike plastic toothbrushes, it requires no water, no electricity, and produces no waste. In a world increasingly conscious of its environmental footprint, the Siwak stands as a product that is perfectly aligned with sustainability in every sense. And from the spiritual perspective, there is simply no comparison. A plastic toothbrush, no matter how sophisticated, carries no prophetic significance. It does not connect you to the blessed hands of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It does not earn you reward in the sight of Allah. It does not link your morning routine to the morning routines of hundreds of millions of Muslims across 14 centuries of Islamic civilization, from the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, in the deserts of Arabia, to the scholars of the golden age of Islam in Baghdad and Cordoba, to the righteous believers of today in Jakarta and Dakar and Amman and Lahore. The Siwak does all of that. And it does it with every single stroke. Let us speak about the most profound benefit of the Siwak that most people have never considered, the benefit that transcends the teeth and the gums and the tongue and enters the realm of identity. When you use the Siwak, you are making a statement. You are saying, quietly but powerfully, that you belong to the Ummah of Muhammad, peace be upon him. You are saying that the way he lived still matters today. You are saying that 14 centuries is not enough time to make his example irrelevant. You are saying that in a world full of complicated choices and overwhelming options, you have chosen the simplest and most beautiful path, the path of the Prophet, peace be upon him. That is not a small thing. That is a declaration of love, and love, in Islam, is the foundation of everything. The great scholar Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, in his monumental commentary on Sahih Bukhari entitled Fath al-Bari, wrote at length about the virtues of the Siwak and its deep connection to the concept of fitra, the natural disposition with which Allah created human beings. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, identified the Siwak as one of the practices of fitra, alongside trimming the nails, removing body hair, and maintaining general cleanliness. This is not coincidental. The scholars of Islam have explained that fitra refers to the instinctive inclination toward purity, beauty, and the worship of Allah that every human being is born with. When you use the Siwak, you are not going against your nature, you are fulfilling it. You are becoming more fully and completely yourself, the self that Allah created you to be. Sister Fatima lives in the city of Dakar, Senegal. She is a teacher, a mother of 4, and a woman who has devoted much of her adult life to Islamic education in her community. She teaches a class every week at her local masjid for women and young girls, and in recent years she has made the Siwak a central part of her curriculum. She brings samples for her students to see and touch. She reads them the hadith, she explains the science, and she tells them something that she says she believes with her whole heart. Every time you pick up the Siwak, she tells them, you are holding something that connects you directly to the Prophet, peace be upon him. You are holding something that his blessed hands held. And in a world that is constantly trying to disconnect us from our heritage, our identity, and our deen, that connection is not a small thing. That connection is everything. So what should you do after watching this video? The answer is simple, and it is beautiful. Go and find a Siwak. They are available at Islamic bookshops, halal grocery stores, and online marketplaces in virtually every country in the world. The next time you wake up for Fajr, before you make wudu, before you stand in prayer before your Lord, pick up that small twig and clean your teeth with the intention of following the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Say Bismillah. Begin on the right side, as the Prophet, peace be upon him, preferred. And as you clean your teeth in the quiet before dawn, know that you are performing an act of worship. Know that the angels are recording it. Know that Allah, the Most High, is pleased. And know that somewhere across the span of 14 centuries, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is honored by the love of an ummah that refused to let his example fade. This is the gift of the Siwak. Not just clean teeth, not just healthy gums, not just whiter enamel, but a living, breathing, daily connection to the greatest human being who ever walked this earth. A connection that costs almost nothing and returns everything. A connection that begins in your mouth and ends, by the mercy of Allah, in Jannah. If this video opened your eyes to something you did not know before, then do not keep it to yourself. Share it as Sadaqah Jariyah, a continuous charity, so that others in your family, your community, and across the ummah can benefit from this blessed sunnah. Every person who picks up a Siwak because of this video, every prayer that is made with a purified mouth, every reward that is earned because of this knowledge, a share of all of it will continue flowing to you, by the permission of Allah, long after this video has ended. Drop your country in the comments below. Tell us whether you already use the Siwak, or whether this video inspired you to start. And subscribe to this channel right now because we have so much more of the wisdom of Islam waiting for you in the videos ahead.